Hi, I'm Gregory Johnson Furniture Restoration in upstate New York. You're looking at my reflection in this beautifully hand-carved English sycamore frame designed and made by Wendell Castle in 1981. This is his inscription on the lower left-hand side. And this mirror is part of a suite of 5 pieces of furniture designed by Wendell Castle and made in 1981, all of English sycamore. And it consists of a sideboard, a scribe cabinet, a 3-legged table with drawers. It's kind of funny, it has 2 drawers on the other side too. And another end table with no drawers. It's more like just a piece of sculpture in and of itself. There's also some other interesting details I can show you. Secondary wood is Purpleheart. And look at these exquisitely hand-cut dovetails. And the drawer pulls and door pulls are also made of Purpleheart. These pieces really are amazing. When they arrived in my shop, though, they were in pretty serious condition and required some major restoration treatments, almost complete refinishing. In fact, these 2 pieces were completely refinished. I was able to retain the original finish on the backs of this cabinet and this cabinet. The interiors have the original finish. And most of the mirror does. I did a restoration coat of nitrocellulose lacquer on the entire mirror after bringing just this area back to almost bare wood. So what follows is the full restoration treatment. Well, not very much repair work was required on this project. Just these 2 top drawer pulls were broken off, but the pieces had been saved. And then over here, on the 3-legged table, there's a check here and a couple of very small ones on the other side. A check is a crack that develops in wood, and it's kind of unpredictable. It's from the natural growing of the tree and developing some stress areas in it. So sometimes boards will crack later on, like many years later. And this is relatively minor. And I ended up using a shim of maple. I didn't have any sycamore on hand, but maple was a close enough match. And on the opposite side of the base, some very light checks in the wood. And these I just worked in tinted epoxy. And there's a check on the base of the scribe cabinet. Yeah, the repair is right here, and it blends in pretty well. This right here is actually like a natural pitch mark. It was in the board from the beginning, and it's interesting at this angle. The stack laminated this board on top of this board is really noticeable, but just in regular viewing, it's not really noticeable. But that's how something like this blends in, because there's other marks that are natural. So it looks its age and it looks natural. Lights will guide you home and ignite your bones, and I will try to fix you. So the Purpleheart Pull, this piece broke off and is nice and clean, but the other half has some buildup that needs to be cleaned off, and because it was used as a pull for a while. I decided not to take the pulls off completely because I know I can repair them on here, and taking them off might risk additional breakage. So I'm going to use thickened epoxy, but This B72 is a conservation coating that I will use to isolate the part of the pull joint from the rest of it. I don't put this on the brake itself, but just on the part that's a joint, because later down the road, if it needs to be removed, this will help it release. The epoxy does stick to the B72 once it's cured, but it will allow for better reversal in the future. So these gloves I can reuse over and over. I have a quick way of blowing them out because this epoxy resin container is really gooey. And I'm mixing up this 5-to-1 ratio in a very small amount. It can be done by eye, but it can be done with a gram scale. A tenth of a gram is great. I use this acid brush because it really mixes the epoxy quickly. Oh, I forgot to mask this off, but there's plenty of time working with this epoxy. And I tint the epoxy now with a couple colors and try to approximate the color of the Purpleheart itself, which will help hide any glue line. Thicken it up with some colloidal silica, and I'll adjust the color just a little bit more until it looks pretty close. Okay, let's see how this glue up went. Okay, so I need to fix this check here. And cracked a long time ago and it needs to be stabilized. Let's see, I can slip this piece of paper in there. First thing I'm going to do is seal the wood here with a little bit of blonde shellac. I probably should have done this repair before I stripped it. There was perfect stripping weather, meaning I could have a lot of windows open, good ventilation through the spray booth. I'm ventilating, so I like to strip furniture in the spray booth with lots of air movement. Anyway, this will effectively seal the raw maple off around the crack during the repair. So we can see the extent of the crack on the bottom of this piece. Paper slips right in there easily. using this very thin saw to widen the crack a little bit, clean it out. This is flexible so it can take on the shape instead of cutting in a straight line. That's as far in as I'm going to go on the bottom. You can see a hairline crack there, but I'll be working glue into that. And now I'm going to approach this from the top side. I want to let the saw kind of follow the crack on its own. I think that's as far as I'm going to take it. Since this is end grain, I need to prepare this thin piece of maple with the grain going in the same direction. And the other thing I need to do is take note of the angle of the saw blade where it stops, which is about here. And this, when I prepare this shim, it'll have approximately the same angle of where it terminates. So this blonde pigment, dry pigment, was the only color I needed to match the aged maple. And I've thickened this with some colloidal silica. Actually, I'm going to cut this off because it's a little bit too much weight. expect these stains to come out. And it's unknown what really made these stains, but it's as if they had gone right through the lacquer because the lacquer was still intact. So the bureau cabinet, I don't have to refinish the entire thing. I've masked off the back to preserve the original finish on the back. But the top does need refinishing. Too difficult to isolate the finish on the two ends. The inside of the cabinet, not refinishing that. That would be a lot of work, but it actually doesn't need it. It shows up a lot of the dents, the marks in the top from age. We're going to improve it, but not try to make it look perfect. I will steam the entire surface of the top. A lot of it is coming out.
Look how they shine for you. Everything you do. Yeah, they were all yellow. I came along. I wrote a song for you. And all the things you do. And it was called Yellow. So then I took my turn. Oh, what a thing to have done. And it was all yellow. Your skin, oh yeah, your skin and bones turn into something beautiful. And you know I love you so. You know I love you so.
So the base has been thoroughly sanded with 180 grit sandpaper. Before that, I steamed out a few dents. Some dents don't steam completely out. I tested earlier a little bit of oxalic acid bleach to remove some of these splotchy stains. If you remember earlier in the video, you could actually see them through the lacquer, and they're still in the wood. It looked very promising. So I'm going to treat the entire thing now with a saturated solution of oxalic acid. This is a hot solution of oxalic acid. We'll see if this does the trick. Oxalic acid works best if you can apply it soaking wet. As wet as you can get it without any puddles. This is a particularly challenging piece because of the shape. So I decided to use a rag to apply it. But you want to do a very thorough job of getting it nice and soaking wet. Hoping to see all these stains here greatly reduced. Well, it's evenly wet. Initially, it's not looking very good. There's a spot here I treated earlier and it looked promising, but it sure doesn't now. I've seen oxalic acid make stains that disappear right away like magic, but I've also seen it take a while. I'm gonna let this dry overnight and check it out in the morning. Well, having wiped this down with some clean water, not seeing a lot of improvement with the stains. I'm going to try treating it again with the oxalic acid. Okay, so I've treated this again with oxalic acid, this time a boiling solution, concentrating mainly on the stains. So we'll see how this looks tomorrow.
I jumped across for you. Oh, what a thing to do. 'Cause you were all yellow. I drew a line. I drew a line for you. Oh, what a thing to do. And it was all yellow.
Getting ready to sand this little top with a random orbit sander with 180 grit. This is fairly aggressive and it has to be done very carefully, especially on a historically significant piece like this. But some of these stains are pretty deep. The oxalic acid treatment is working to a degree, but this does need a good sanding. It won't take long at all because it's such a small top. I like sanding in the spray booth because the air carries the dust away very quickly, so I don't really need to wear a dust mask all the time. So let's get started.
At the stars, look how they shine for you. And all the things that we do. I promise you this, I'll always look out for you. That's what I'll do. Say my heart is yours. It's you that I hold on to. Yeah, that's what I do. And I know I was wrong, but I won't let you down.
So what I'm doing here is a paper bag rub, just a brown paper bag. I decided to get an off-the-gun finish with the final coat of lacquer. To get an off-the-gun, the final coat doesn't really need rubbing. But, especially a piece like this, there's no avoiding getting overspray. And overspray is, as you're putting a wet coat on this end, the parts that you just sprayed are getting really light mist that dry almost instantly, but they make the surface a little bit rough. And I wish you could feel like, well, let's find, like this leg here. It's got a smoothness, but it also feels a little bit sandpapery. But this brown paper bag rubs this and makes it satin smooth. And it does it like sandpaper, but it does not leave scratches. I mean, there maybe microscopically, but it works remarkably well. And just regular brown paper bag. I mean, you can use almost any paper, and you'll actually see the lacquer starting to build up a little bit into a fine powder, because that's actually what you are removing. See, I feel a little bit of roughness here. And in a way, the paper will wear out. Just ask for paper at the store, and it's practically free. You know, it's almost just sheer luck that I was able to get a final coat of satin on this with absolutely no dust specks in it whatsoever. So on all of this furniture. So all it needed was the paper bag rub. I do have a technique, however, if this did get some dust specks, that I can still get this quality of finish. I'm not going to demonstrate it on any of these pieces, don't need it. So I will come up with something down the road to demonstrate that, because it's a very handy technique. Just like being able to rub a whole piece of furniture with a paper bag's pretty handy too. Just a beautiful finish. Considering what these pieces look like when they first came in, I think they look pretty good. Actually, they're quite extraordinary, considering that they're made by Wendell Castle. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, share, like, all that jazz. Thank you for watching.
Kai, come here. Good girl. Although I did have to whistle twice. Any more squirrels? What? Maybe. Okay, Kai, let's go.